All right, so the point of this video is actually pretty simple. It's kind of to show you, first of all, what you can do with Rand McNally World Atlas, which you're all going to have a login for. And it's also to go over different types of maps and what you can learn from a map. So what we're looking at right now is pretty much the most basic map you can use on Rand McNally. It's a blank outline map, and it's outlining really just rivers, and that's about it. So if I go here and I go to maps, these are all the different options I have as far as maps are concerned. So I can see right here I'm at outline blank. If I go all the way up here to terrain map, this is the one you'll get when you first log in. And it just kind of gives you an idea of what the land looks like. So right now I'm focused over the United States. I can kind of see that the darker green areas are areas that have higher elevation. The lighter kind of yellowish areas are lower elevation. If I pull back, I can see that the rest of the world kind of looks at that as well. You have a dark map. I'm not sure really why this is useful, other than maybe just make some of the borders stand out a little more. Maybe some of the labels stand out a little more, but it does show you the divisions between countries, divisions between states for the United States. If you look in Canada, they have something called provinces. Those are divided as well. If you want to see roads, there's a street map option. Um, I'm guessing just some of the major roads and major highways, what we call the interstate highways. So if you're planning a trip and you want to see where to go, you can do that. The outline labels, and this is kind of the one I had when I first opened this up. Now you have the outlines drawn there. It's kind of the opposite of the dark map. See? So now it's white with black letters. The outline countries, we'll just do this, but it won't label it for you. And those are the really basic maps. The basic political maps will show the colors, the different countries as different colors. They label the continents. This is a really basic one. Some of the major water features, and that's really about it. If you want to get more advanced, you can look at one that has the countries on there. So if I scroll in South America, I can see that those countries are labeled for me. The United States is still all by itself with no states divided, but if I put political United States and scroll in, now all the states appear magically. I can do the same thing with Canada if I'm so inclined. And I can also do it where the continents are different colors, just in case you forget what the 7 continents are. North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, and of course our good friends down in Antarctica. So those are political maps, and political maps just basically show us countries, or in this case continents, which is probably the most basic political map. It doesn't show us a whole lot more, maybe a couple of rivers here and there, but the purpose of a political map is just to see where countries are divided. The next major type of map we'll take a look at are physical maps, and this is less concerned with showing us where countries are, although this one does have the borders drawn on there. It's more about what does the land look like, what are the physical features of the land. So if you look really closely, and I'll scroll in a little further here, you can see that there are mountains there where there are mountains. You can see here the Great Basin. You can see some lower areas there. The flatlands are, well, they appear to be flat. It's kind of hard to do two-dimensionally. You'll occasionally see some 3D physical maps, which are pretty cool because you can actually run your fingers over the country and feel the mountains. The advanced one, I'm not sure there's a tremendous difference. They may label some more. Actually, that's exactly what they do. So in this case, there you can see the mountain range, and it also labels the features for you. So we see the Rocky Mountains here. If I pull back, let's see the biggest ones in the world. And I'll scroll on over to, where's Tibet? There we go, Nepal, there we go. So if we scroll in here, we can see the Himalayas, and there's Mount Everest, which is the highest point on Earth. And again, we can see a more advanced physical map. So if I was looking to see where mountain ranges are, land features, in some cases water features, I would want to use a physical map. This one is the same exact thing, except it's just the physical features. I don't see the differences between the countries. It's just a different view. It's an interesting view, so I don't see the border between the United States and Canada, but I still see those physical features. A satellite image, and this is basically what Earth looks like from space. So if I scroll back, I get a pretty good idea of where vegetation is. I can see where the ocean is. I can even see a little bit, if I look closely enough, where the ocean gets deepest. You'll talk about that in science in a little bit. I can see where more desert areas are. Here's the Sahara. Here's Arizona and the American deserts. I can also, if I want to, have the same map now with labeled places as well. So that's just a different view, kind of a cool view from what the world looked like from space. These other ones are just old maps from Rand McNally. They specialized in making paper maps for a really long time. So they just took some of their paper maps and made them digital. So it's basically the same thing. This would be a political map. Here's a classic political map. This one's also kind of cool. This gives you an idea of where people live. This would be a picture of the Earth at night. And you can see where the lights, where the concentrations of lights are, those are generally where people are. So if I look down here, we got Washington, D.C., up through Baltimore, Philadelphia, there's New York, there's Boston. And those lights are on because those cities are illuminated even at night. The areas that are dark are areas where there aren't a whole lot of people. So the night lights one is kind of cool. If I pull back, see if I can find Japan. It's going to be kind of hard to miss. Come on, scroll. What are we doing here? There's Japan. So if I scroll in, you can see Tokyo is right there. There's going to be a lot of lights there. So this one's just kind of a cool one. Doesn't really help you anymore. It just looks kind of neat. It's a treasure map, so it's meant to look like kind of an old map that pirates might use to go, dig up a box of gold or whatever. Doesn't really do much for you other than just look kind of cool. Same thing with the pencil map. This is meant to look like a hand-drawn map. Obviously, it looks a little better than a hand-drawn map, but it does look as if a map was drawn in pencil. And again, doesn't really help you very much. It's kind of a political map that shows you where countries are. So, another one that just looks kind of cool. See, all the places have exclamation points at the end because this is a comic book font one. And then what if the map was a picture book? And it shows you there's the Statue of Liberty and a moose and a buffalo and the Golden Gate Bridge. And I think that's Mount Rushmore, although I can't be certain. And again, doesn't really help you, but it does look a little different. And look, there's a cute monkey. So these are the different kind of map options you have. And it's really mostly just political maps showing you the divisions in between countries and physical features if you want to look at the physical maps. If I want to go, and I'm going to go to a less ridiculous looking one, I'm going to go to this one, which is the political United States. Actually, I apologize. I'm going to go to outline labels. And if I go and when I put layers on, now I can see some different examples. Now, some of these are intended more for older students, high school students. Like if I want to see economic activity, this tells me what people are doing for jobs. All the yellow areas have lots of agriculture. Green areas are more forestry, so those people who are cutting down trees for paper and stuff like that. We don't really get into that as much. We do talk about it quite a bit, but this map is more aimed at high school kids. This one is definitely aimed at high school kids. You don't really need to know about this, but I'll show it to you because it's nice. You get into more of like climate maps and getting an idea of weather maps, that sort of thing. In this section here called the environment. So if I want to know what the average annual precipitation of an area is, this will tell me about how many inches of rain an area gets over the course of a year. And I think I mentioned this on one of the 5 Themes of Geography videos, but if you're talking snow, 1 inch of rain equals 10 inches of snow. So places that get, the place like in let's say Minnesota, where it says they only get 20 to 40 inches of precipitation, they get more snow than that. But it takes 10 inches of snow to equal 1 inch of precipitation because it's crystallized. So if I want to know how much it rains, if I want to know what the average rain is just for the summer, I can get an idea of that. If I want to know average precipitation for the winter, I can get an idea for that. If I'm talking temperature, I want to know winter temperatures. I can get January temperatures by putting this layer over the map. I can get the same information for July. Obviously, the temperature is a little bit warmer. And if I want to know climate zones, and this is going to get covered a little more on the Geographic Themes video for regions, this actually divides the United States and the rest of the world into different types of climates, so tropical climates, dry climates, mild climates, humid climates, all the way down to polar climates, which would obviously be in the northern parts of the world. And then actually the southern parts. If I want to go to environments, this is an interesting one because it tells us where forests are found, swamps, crops and woodlands, tundra, which is like a frozen desert kind of thing. Barren just means there's basically nothing there. This one is one that might be helpful for science when you guys start talking about oceans, because it tells us oceans, the ocean currents. If you look at this now, it might not make a whole lot of sense, but when you actually start talking about oceans in science, this will make a ton of sense. It just looks like a bunch of arrows right now, but it's actually a very helpful map. And then vegetation, which again just shows us how plants grow in different parts of the world. I could also check out some other geographic. Let me take this layer off. And this will point out the highest points around the globe and the highest points of different countries. I could see latitude and longitude lines if I'm trying to find absolute location. Time zones, which are kind of a region as well. You can see what time it is all around the world. And there we are in the Eastern time zone. This one is about U.S. regions. I'll zoom in. They're a little bit different than our regions. Some are the same. Like, for example, their Pacific states are the same as ours. Their Rocky Mountain states are the same as ours. Their Southwest is the same as ours. If you put together their Midwest and their Great Plains, so that's our Midwest region. Our Northeast is pretty similar. So it's a different way of dividing the United States into regions by state. If I wanted to see, and this is something else that would be helpful in science, where earthquakes have hit, I can see where they've hit and how serious they've been. I can see where active volcanoes are by putting this up. There's some interesting thing about people around the world, how many people are born per year, how many people die per year, how long people live around the world, what their expectancy is, what percentage of the population can read. We're over 95% here in the United States, which is good. Population density shows how crowded certain areas are. So the really dark red parts are really, really crowded places. If it's yellowish, that means it's really not crowded at all. If it's white, that means there's almost nobody there. And that would just show me the same thing for the United States. It breaks it down a little more specifically. We'll talk about population density a little bit later. Some political maps here if you want to know how Congress is made up. You can see that's all about. If you want to see where all the counties in the United States are, there you go. And then we have historical maps. So if I want to see what the United States was from 1775 to 1800, that was the entire United States. This was North America just as the United States became a country. You can see all this was owned by Spain. All this was British. That was pretty much just Native American tribes and not much else at that point. U.S. settlements will tell us what the country looked like in 1800 versus 1850. I can see what states were fighting against each other during the Civil War. And then I can see, finally, the U.S. settlements for 1890, how much territory we controlled. And once you get into world history classes, which will be in high school, and you've already talked about some world history, I can see what China looked like in 100 BC, if I want to scroll in and see that. And these are all, again, historical maps. I can see what Europe would have looked like in 1360, so about 650 years ago. Some of those countries are still in existence. You see France and England and Ireland and Scotland. I can see the same thing for Africa from about 600 years ago. So a whole bunch of different things for world history map going all the way back to the ancient Greeks, which I believe you studied in second grade, maybe third, somewhere around there. You can see what ancient Greece looked like and how they divided their territory. So that's just a crash course in how to use Rand McNally World Atlas, and you'll get a login. You can actually kind of draw things on these and make notes on them and take pictures of them and save them and share them with people. So you'll have the opportunity to play with this, and again, lots of different types of maps that you can use in different situations.